Hello and welcome to another episode of Interviews with Hyperpolyglots at HYPIA. I'm Dr. Usman Chohan, President HYPIA. Today I have the immense pleasure of speaking to a HYPIA member, Judy, who is a very close friend of mine and somebody who has a very interested journey in learning languages. So welcome, Judy.
Hi, my name is Judy, and thanks for having me here.
Thank you for being here. So, Judy, first of all, tell us, how many languages do you speak?
So I would say I speak 7 languages, which are Korean, which is my native language, English, French, Spanish. I would say my French and Spanish, they're around C2 level. And then Italian, Portuguese, which are about B2. And yeah, I would say I speak those 7, and I'm taking intermediate German right now. And my Mandarin, I would say it's about A2 to B1.
So that's pretty amazing. Now, not all of these languages are from the same language family. So when you had to study English and French, which we have a very interesting background for, what was your journey like for these two languages?
So English, I think I started learning English at the age of 7 because in Korea, there's this thing called English Academy. So parents would send their kids to English after school classes, and I went, and yeah, that's where I picked up my English. And then when I was in grade 5 in elementary school, I went to Vancouver for a year to learn English. And then during that year, I improved a lot. And then when I came back to Korea, I spoke English very well. And I read novels in English, and I did pretty much everything in English. As kids, you just absorb languages like that. And then in 5th grade, I first started learning French as well as a second language in Canada. So I started learning alphabets, and then I came back to Korea, and my mom asked me if I wanted to continue learning French, and I said yes. And from then on, I kept learning. And then I went to middle school in Korea, and I went back to Vancouver for high school. And I took French in high school, and I just kept on studying on my own and with teachers from France. So my accent is very Parisian. Yeah.
I think that's the hallmark accent. It's the one I have too when I speak French, for the same reason as you. But the thing is that you've taken this English and French to a very extended level because you are at the greatest university on earth, which is McGill, which is also my alma
Yeah.
mater. And you are at law school right now. And so give us some of the cool background behind this story.
Yeah, so I actually did my undergrad in Korea. So after finishing high school in Vancouver, I went back to Korea. So I did a lot of moving back and forth. So in Korea, I studied French literature and Hispanic literature, so more of a comparative literature kind of degree. And then after that, I went to a professional interpreting school where I learned to translate and interpret. And I got into legal interpreting, and I thought law was the way to go because um not because I wanted to translate better, just more so because I wanted a profound knowledge in one field, and I thought law was interesting. So I decided to go to law school. And then the reason why I am at McGill right now is I liked the bilingual program at McGill Law. So it's French English bilingual program. And also we learned both civil law and common law.
That's true. It's a very competitive program. You have a lot of high achievers there, and it's one of the best schools in the country. So, what are your impressions of studying there? What is life on campus like, and what's the law school experience like?
So studying law is not easy at all. So there's a lot of readings and a lot of preparation for classes. I also agree that law students are very competitive and they're overachievers. So there's a need to keep a good balance between life and studies. So I try to go do yoga and have some me time and spend time with friends. But other than that, I really enjoy talking to professors and engaging in class. And I don't do all the readings, but yeah, doing readings to a certain extent.
That's fantastic. Now, if we take Korean, English, and French, I have a similar experience. So I would have Urdu and English and French. But then there's a leap after that where you took Spanish to a new level, et cetera, et cetera. What is the story like for those other languages?
So Spanish, I started in university. So I actually went to Switzerland as an exchange student. And I went to Geneva, which is a francophone city, thinking that I would practice a lot of French. But what ended up happening was I made Spanish friends, a bunch of Spanish friends who are also on exchange. And I started talking to them in Spanish. And that's how I improved, just by speaking and hanging out with Spanish people. I think this is the best way to learn a language. Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is the irony of being an exchange student, where you might go on exchange to one
Yeah,
place, but many of your friends will actually be from some other place, and you will learn more about their culture than you intended, right?
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
I
And
had a
because
sim
we're all foreigners, right? We had this bonding moment as foreigners.
That's true. And so, what's the deal with the German and the other languages?
So after learning Spanish like that in Geneva, I went back to Korea and I decided Spanish or Spain is my new love. And I decided to declare a double major in Hispanic studies and Hispanic literature. And people thought I was crazy because I was doing a dual degree in arts. And they often asked me, what are you going to do afterwards? But I just did it because I liked it. Yeah. And Italian and Portuguese I learned because I thought that they were just similar to Spanish. And it was relatively easy to
Oh,
learn those languages, having a very solid base in Spanish and French.
so we actually have a very similar story in that sense, because my Portuguese, for example, came just because you know Spanish, you might as well do that one. It's the same thing. Now, you and I, we are both, in a sense, Asian hyperpolyglots. And as you have seen from a
Yeah.
recent map that I constructed, our Asian representation or African or Oceania representation is low. And in fact, you find so many hyperpolyglots from Europe. You can break it out into Southern Europe, Western and Eastern Europe, and or you have many from the Americas. And that's not just North America, there's a lot of South Americans too. But we Asians are underrepresented. And
Mhm.
I want to get your thoughts on that broadly, and then more specifically in the Korean context. Have you come
Yeah.
across people, or how did they react to the fact that you are hyperpolyglot? There's two parts to that. What do you think?
Yeah. The first part about not having enough of Asian representation in the polyglot community, I am in complete agreement with what you said. And yeah, when I go to polyglot events in person, for example, the polyglot gathering or the polyglot conference, I don't see people who look like me. So that's a big problem. And I think this concept of being a polyglot is a very European thing. I think it started in Europe. I don't know where the origin is, but just because there are so many languages spoken in Europe, although, yeah, we have a lot of languages in Asia as well, but events like that, I think they often take more place in Europe, which is, um, yeah, this is something that we should do more in Asia. So
Absolutely.
that. And the second part is in Korea, what is the language scene in Korea? Well, most people speak English. Most young people, they speak English because they take it in school. And they also have additional languages like Mandarin or Japanese. Either one of them, they learn it since middle school. But I wouldn't say that they're necessarily fluent in these foreign languages because there's such a big emphasis on English. And just by speaking English, you'll be treated like a polyglot in Korea. Because speaking multiple languages is not common at all. Yeah,
Uh,
so as you mentioned, Korean young people, Korean students are very high achieving, and they take a lot of extracurricular courses and yeah, additional courses in addition to school, which often are English classes. But even so, first of all, speaking good English is not so common. And in addition to that, speaking a foreign language to a high level is more uncommon. Yeah.
I understand. And actually, there's a lot of good research in linguistics by Korean academics on this status aspect to speaking English in Korea and the success factor and the sexiness factor. It's a big part of academic research, Korea being the case study for that. But then how do your Korean family members, Korean pals, friends react to the fact that you do this? Is it seen as a weird thing or a cool thing or whatever thing?
I think they uh, think what I'm doing is very unconventional and not typical, and which I agree because this is not what we do in Korea. But I actually found out about this community in Thailand because I went to a digital nomad conference right after graduating college because I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I thought, okay, I'll just be a digital nomad. And I went to Thailand and I attended a digital nomad conference where Lydia Machikov, or she was the organizer for the Polyglot conference or gathering, she was the speaker. Well, she wasn't the speaker for the conference I went, but she was a speaker last year or the previous year. So that's how I got to know about this community. But if not for Thailand, there's no way I could have known anything about this community because it just simply doesn't exist in Korea. I know because I studied comparative literature and linguistics, a lot of my friends are interested in languages. So they usually speak another language fluently, pretty decently. But the idea of learning multiple languages, they don't think that's maybe they don't think it's necessary, or they don't dare do that, maybe. Or another reason might be they're just too busy. Yeah, that's the thing. In Korea, people are so busy. So they just do what they have to do. For example, in order to get a good job, you need to speak English. So you study English and take a test and get good grades on it. And you speak another language because you have to. You want a good job, and that's it. But for people like us who are constantly learning languages, it's more for intrinsic motivation, right? And yeah, I hope people could learn languages for the joy of learning languages.
Very true. You actually see a lot of
Yeah.
this crossover in HYPIA where people have an interpretership background or interpretership ambition, and they also happen to be passionate about it in an intrinsic manner. So you're one of those cases. There are others too. It is something common. Now, if you speak of this meeting you went to in Thailand and heard about the polyglot community at large, how did you come about hearing about HYPIA? When did you join? And what do you think about it?
Yeah. I joined HYPIA in 2021 or 2020, I'm not sure. And I found out about it through Instagram because I have a language account on Instagram. So after that conference in Thailand, I created a language account where I added people who are language celebrities, so influencers in the language community. And I started making language friends, which I've never had language friends in Korea because nobody really speaks languages. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's people who speak languages, but my friends, no, not really. And I started reaching out to those people who weren't Korean. And I also really enjoyed the fact that I was making friends outside of my country. I was very, yeah, that was cool. And and then I found out about Hypia on Instagram because somebody joined Hypia and he posted something. And I thought I might as well just give it a try. and I had to submit my certificates because one of my hobbies is getting language certificates. So I sent a copy of all my transcript, no, not transcript, certificates. And then I also recorded myself speaking in different languages. And I wrote an essay on how I got into languages and all my language journey. And I'm not sure if there was an interview or not, but yeah, there was this process. And then I got accepted. So that's how I joined HYPIA. And after that, HYPIA is a community where people who speak languages, there's a very strict, stringent criteria, which is speaking more than 6 languages. And yeah, those people are very special people, right? And the fact that I get to interact with them, practice languages with them is yeah, is a privilege. And I've been enjoying this membership.
That's good to hear because you're a valued member of the community, and I would like to see you play a bigger role in the community in the future. And speaking of that, for somebody who has gone through law school, so the joke is, for example, I'll give you another example. There's a HYPIA member who has done medical translations. He's from Brazil, and he's gone so deep into medical translation that he might as well get a medical degree because he knows it so much. You've actually done that, which is very cool. So you will have, inshallah, a law degree. Now, what's the path ahead for you professionally, given the languages plus the law school?
Yeah, given that I will become a lawyer, and given that I speak languages, I want to do international law. And this is what I say all the time. But I think as of now, I'm more interested in international public law, public international law. But I am willing to try out different fields of law. For example, international arbitration or international commercial transactions. But I would like a career in law that allows me to speak different languages and that allows me to interact with people from different cultures, or whether it be people or corporations, international organizations is also one of my interests. So yeah, I'm thinking that I will practice law in some kind of private law setting when I begin my career and then slowly transition into public sector.
Very cool. So it looks like you've got a bright future ahead, an unconventional journey by at least people your age in Korea's standards, but one that will be all the more enriching for them, right?
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
on that happy note, I thank you for your time and we will stay in touch. And I hope that people watching this can get inspired that, well, there are Asians in this too, and it is a pretty cool thing, and we should all become a bigger family over time. Right?
Yeah.
All
Yes,
right.
I agree.
Thank you for your
Yeah. Thank
time
you so
and
much for having me.
my pleasure.